G'day and welcome to this week's video. My name's Robert Gowdy. Today I had a chat with a chap who has some credit card debt, and we were assessing whether we could use superannuation as an option to help pay down that debt. And of course, in his scenario, no chance at all. It's very stringent rules about access to superannuation, particularly prior to preservation age, which for most people is age 60. And as I said, even if we could, it would only be a band-aid on a larger problem. And then obviously that problem is generally around budgeting. But for this client, and this is where the video is going, this client, it actually got down to the relationship with his spouse and the way that they manage money together. Or in this scenario, one person in the spouse is managing all the money and in control of the money. And in this scenario, for the chap I was chatting to, he is in no control at all, which means that he doesn't have enough cash flow to meet his credit card obligations, which have grown because of not enough cash flow to pay the personal loan and other things like that, just his ongoing weekly and monthly commitments. So it got me thinking about people's relationships and how they deal with money together. Now, generally there's always someone that's going to be slightly more controlled than the other, but I think it's really important that for a healthy relationship that a couple is on the same page. And like I said, for this chap, that he really needs to have some hard discussions, and so there's more see-through and more openness around what happens with the money for the family budget, where one spouse can be swimming along beautifully in full control while someone else is stressed out with debt, and high interest rates on credit cards is obviously not ideal. So there's got to be tough conversations. And so I suppose my advice for people is that you need to have these conversations very early on in the relationship to make sure that people are on the same page. Because if it's not dealt with and people aren't on the same page, it will be an issue throughout a whole relationship. So definitely have those conversations. Make sure that we're nice and open in terms of where money is spent. I think one great way of doing it is that everyone gets a weekly amount of money you can spend on whatever you choose. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to ask for permission. But there's also money set aside for the home loan and for the ongoing expenses. And these are things that you can do some very simple calculations on to say how much needs to go away each week to meet the rates that come in once per year, and is $3,000. You split that $3,000 into your pay cycle, weekly, fortnightly or monthly, and that money is set aside ready for next year's bill as it comes in. So there is consolidated money for the commitments, there's money set aside that goes to the holiday account, and there is money that you get to spend free of any obligation or asking for permission or justification. Have these conversations. It will be fantastic for relationships. For people that are entering new relationships, have these conversations relatively early in the piece, and it will save you a lot of pain and angst later on. Hope that's a help. Just some observations from today's chat. Thanks for listening.